Thank you, everybody, for being patient. I'm going to begin the meeting this evening. City Council Committee on Finance, May 12th, Tuesday, 2020. Calling this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chairman Cleosi.
Present.
Vice Chairwoman Ryan.
Present.
Councilwoman Castillo. Councilwoman Castillo.
She's muted. There you go.
I'm muted.
Now you got it. You're all set. We hear you.
Present.
Councilwoman Anthony.
Present.
Councilman Taylor.
Here.
We have 5 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let the record reflect that President Pro Tem Correa is present. The Internal Auditor is present. Councilwoman Miller is present. I think Councilwoman Irwin's present. The Treasurer is present at this time. And the City Solicitor Kenny Cheverini is present. As I want to make a note once again to thank the clerk's office and all their fine help that they've been doing, putting this meeting together. I want to thank them once again, doing a great job, and keep up the good work. So with that, I'd like to do, if we could, take a motion to take items 1 through 5 up at the same time.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Chair makes that motion. Second by Councilman Taylor. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries
Aye.
unanimously. Madam Clerk. All right. I believe we have an exhibit. I believe we have to enter into the record. Okay. So we have an exhibit here. It'll be identified as B, as in boy 9, to items 1 through 5. It's entitled Department of Finance, Department Inspection and Standards Budget for Fy20. And it has, it's a multi-page document, including the 3-box report. It's about 20 plus pages, plus an organizational chart. And if I may say, by the way, excellent organizational chart, Director.
Thank
You
you.
can actually see it. You can actually see it, and it's colorized. Fantastic. Great job. Enter into the record as Exhibit B9 to items 1 through 5. Do you have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Chair, second by Councilman Taylor. Councilman Anthony, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Aye.
Okay. Next, I believe we have individuals from the administration who will be testifying this evening. So let's take them one by one. I think we'll start with Mr. Mancini, and then Ms. Silvera, and then I think Mr. Achute and Ms. Ocho. All right. So, Mr. Clerk, can you swear all these witnesses in, please, sir?
If you please raise your right hand, do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
I do.
If you
Lawrence
please,
P. Mancini, Chief Financial Officer.
Ms. Silvera, state your name. Can't hear her. Is she muted?
maybe on her phone.
Sarah Silveria, Finance Director.
Thank you. Director, state your name, please.
Joseph Achu, Director of Inspections and Standards.
Ms. Brito, you're muted.
Sally Brito, Director of Fiscal Operations.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right. So as we do, Mr. Mancini, I presume you would like to take the mic and start from the Exhibit B9 and go to that?
I will.
All right. Thank you, sir. You have the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Good evening, members of the council and others. Mr. Chairman, this evening we are reviewing, as you know, the Department of Inspection and Standards. And this department has all of its revenue reported in one division, while there are separate reports for the divisions by category, and we'll cover their expenses separately. But so this evening, in this Department of Inspection Standards, we start with 101-401, which is known as Building Administration. And this department has revenues, and actually the revenues in this department is budgeted for the new year at $8,919,984, which represents an increase of $1,367,892 over the current FY20 budget. And this is based on a number of known projects and development in the city in accordance with accelerated project timelines observed by the department. The zoning board of review revenue is budgeted at $37,200. It's a decrease of $4,752 from the FY20 budget, and this revenue is decreasing due to zoning conformity trend that has been observed across known projects. The building board of revenue at 101-407 is budgeted at $7,608, and that's an increase of $1,512 over the FY20 budget. And this revenue will be increasing in conjunction with the increase in inspection and standards administration revenue. If I may continue with 101-401 in my narrative on expenditures, the salaries for all inspection and standards divisions have been reduced due to increased attrition as the city plans to delay posting vacancies and will not be filling non-essential positions. The inspection and standards administration division, 101-401, salaries are budgeted at $638,487. This represents a decrease of $17,014 from the prior year budget FY20. The structures and zoning division of 101-402, salaries are budgeted at $954,577. This is a reduction of $27,459 from the prior year FY20 budget. Turning your attention to plumbing and mechanical, 101-403, salaries are budgeted at $258,315. This is a decrease of $2,082 from the FY20 budget of $260,397. In the electrical division, 101-404, salaries are budgeted at $177,075. This is a reduction of $1,100 from the FY20 budget of $178,175. And then the zoning board of review salaries are budgeted at $18,450, with an increase of $450 over the FY20 budget of $18,000. And building board of review, those salaries are budgeted at $13,000, the same as FY20. Mr. Chairman, continue with benefits, and I apologize to the committee. This report was prepared in a fashion that consolidated all budget categories with all of the departmental divisions within each budget category. So it's going to take me just a bit longer to complete the narrative, and then we'll move into the 3-box. Under benefits are budgeted in the following divisions. Inspection and standards administration, budgeted benefits are $485,801, a decrease of $3,973 from the FY20 budget. The structures and zoning division of 101-402 is budgeted at $810,166, a decrease of $67,286. Plumbing and mechanical benefits are budgeted at $200,839, an increase of $5,115 over the prior year budget. The electrical division at 101-404 is budgeted at $111,454, a decrease of $68,039 from the FY20 budget of $179,493. And then finally, the zoning board of review and building board of review benefits are only FICA-related expenses, and they total $1,416 and $1,020 respectively. As to other expenses, all operating expenses are budgeted in the inspection and standards administrative division, which I reported earlier. And services for FY21 are budgeted at $744,619, representing an increase of $46,239 from the FY20 budget of $698,000. And this increase is due to the need to order new code books for a building code change effective July 1, 2020, along with contractually obligated increases in rent. And lastly, supplies for FY21 are zero costs associated with supplies, and FY20 has been moved into printing for FY21. So that completes the narrative, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to take questions, or we can begin the actual 3-box report beginning on page 88, which is a report that starts with the revenue associated with the building and inspection department.
Before we do, Mr. Mancini, let the record reflect that Councilman Espinal is present too. And you can begin your 3-box report, please, sir.
Thank you, sir. So beginning to the left box, Mr. Chairman, we compare the FY20 to the FY21 budget. You will note with distinction that the most significant increase appears at structures and zoning, account code 43171. While this year's budget was scheduled to be $5,008,000, the 21 budget in this category expects an increase to $6,156,108, an increase of $1,147,743. And I'm sure Director Achute will be happy to share with you his knowledge of those projects that will constitute the basis for this budget projection for the FY21. Following down, there was slight changes in plumbing and draining. The electrical budget expects to see an increase of $99,996, while the mechanical budget, the electrical budget has a decrease of $99,996, while the mechanical budget will have an increase of $149,996, and the so-called inspection violations will be increased by $91,032. The abandoned properties revenue will have a decrease of $7,764, and building inspection and boarding lien revenue is expected to see an increase of $89,984. Miscellaneous revenue will increase this year will be added by $7,200. The total revenue increase for this department in FY21 is scheduled to be $1,367,892. And if I may, before we examine that further with Director Achute, I'd like to move to the center box, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee, to discuss the FY20 budget and where we project that we will be with FY20. So the most significant change that we expect, Mr. Chairman, is in the area of the mechanical. We think we'll see a decrease of about $50,000 from what was budgeted. What was budgeted was $850,000. We might see a decrease of $50,000 in that category. We might see a decrease of $2,000 in inspection violations. We may see a decrease in abandoned property revenue of $10,000, but we do expect to see a boarding increase of $41,000. The net change department for the year in those categories is a decrease of about $25,000 and $68,000. We do expect to pick up additional revenue, miscellaneous revenue of $36,092. Overall, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, we expect to see about an $11,000 shortfall in budgeted revenue in the FY20 budget. And that's good news for the city's budget, and it's also good news for the FY21 budget. At this time, I will entertain questions on revenue, and I am available to discuss that along with Director Achute.
Mr. Mancini, why don't you go to the expense side, and then we'll take it all at the same time, please.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Starting on page 89, this is associated with the Building Administration 101-401. If I could direct your attention, sir, and members of the committee, to the left box, looking at salaries, comparing the FY20 budget to the upcoming FY21. It shows a decrease in salaries of $15,860. This is a reflection, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, of the same format associated with other decreases in salary lines that has been testified by myself earlier in these proceedings, representing what is expected to be a placeholder in most cases for those positions representing a bargaining unit position of Local 1033, should that come to fruition or if in fact that is necessary. Overtime is expected to increase by approximately $2,000. Police and fire details for city departments has a $960 expense reduction. The longevity category has a reduction of $2,194. Overall, the total category of salaries will decrease by $17,014 for the FY21 budget year. Benefits are the purview of the non-departmental and will not be held to the department. Moving further down, the postage will decrease by $1,500. Advertising and marketing will increase by $2,000. Dues and subscriptions will increase by $4,965, and printing will increase by $1,200. Professional training will increase by $9,000. I believe that's the category that includes the issuance of new code books. Director Achute will discuss that. Repairs to office equipment was level funded at $12,000. Rental of land and buildings has an increase of $24,694. That is the allocated portion of the rent at $444 for the square footage occupied by Department of Inspection and Standards. This was the ordinary rental increase that was contained in the rental contract. Court reporters remains level at $14,004. Private contractors remains level at $255,000. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I can turn to page 90 to round out Division 101-401. Miscellaneous expenses will increase by $5,880, while the stationary expense will go down by $1,200. Overall, the expenses associated with this department will increase by $24,000 $4,052, not including the effect of benefits change by a $4,000 reduction. Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, I can move now to the center columns of this division, and then we can discuss that in more detail. For the FY20 budget.
Yes, please, Mr. Mincy.
Thank you. And for the FY20 budget and the projection for FY20, I direct your attention to the center box, and looking at salaries, it appears that salaries for the year will have a slight increase associated with $19,109. Director and I can discuss those changes. There was a hiring mid-year of a building official, and while there was some departure associated with the former director and some vacancies and some inability to meet attrition, accounting for all of those changes, but the net change is a $19,000 increase over the budget. Overtime will have a $3,956 projected overage over the current budget, while police and fire details will have a $703 savings. There'll be a $1,300 savings in longevity. The net effect of salaries for the entire FY20 budget is projecting a $21,000 over budget amount. Benefits will be in line with the budget that was presented for FY20. If I move to the operational expenses, postage will see a decrease of $1,989, while advertising and marketing has a slight increase of $1,039. Dues and subscriptions will have a decrease of $1,754. That entire group of general administrative services will see a reduction or a savings in the budget amount of $2,704. Training, we expect it to be at budget at $8,000. Repairs to office equipment may have a slight overage of $1,350 as projected. Rental of land and buildings will be at budget, $359,306. Court reporters will have a savings of $2,752, and private contractors, again, will have a savings of approximately $40,000, and Director Achute will speak in more detail as to why that has occurred. If I can take it to page 90, again, through the center box, miscellaneous expenses this year will be at or approximately slightly at budget at $9,228, while stationery will be slightly above budget at $1,310, about $110 over budget. Overall, I expect that the entire department's budget will be within budget or budget balance at year-end FY20. And Mr. Chairman, if you wish to pause at this point to take up, and I might recommend that we do the divisions one at a time as it pertains to expenses, but if you prefer to have me continue with the three-box reports, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Yes, please continue with the three-box reports.
Okay. Page 91. This is 101-402, structures and zoning. Once again, I direct your attention to the left box, comparing the current budget FY20 to the proposed FY21. Similarly, we see a reduction in salary expense by $30,567. We see a overtime increase of $3,600, while we see a savings in callback of $6,400, a net savings in those two categories of $2,820. And we do see an increase in longevity of $5,928. Overall, in the salary category for FY21, we see a savings of $27,459 over the prior year. The benefits component is, again, non-chargeable to the department, if you will. It's under the direction of the finance department, and it's considered non-departmental. Staying on page 91, Mr. Chairman, I can direct your attention to the center box to compare FY20 budget to where we believe we'll finish FY20. Salaries expense expects to be a $79,000 reduction in the budget for FY20. We think we'll see a break even at overtime and callback for the year, and we'll also see a slight increase in longevity in our projections. Overall, we expect to see a savings of $75,774 in the combined salary lines. Benefits, once again, is under the purview of the finance department. Mr. Chairman, it's my opinion that this division will be at or below budget at June 30, 2020. With your permission, sir, I'll move to page 92 in Division 101-403, plumbing, draining, and gas piping. Starting with the left column box, comparing FY21 to FY20. Once again, a slight decrease in salary, that's $2,346. A slight increase is expected in overtime. Longevity will stay the same. Overall, we expect that the salaries in this division will be at or below 2020, and therefore representing a savings. Benefits, once again, is the purview of the non-departmental. directing your attention to the center box, comparing the current 20 budget to the where we project that budget to be. We expect to see a slight over budget in salaries of $9,783, a savings in overtime of $398, a savings in longevity of $206. Net position, you'll see a slight overage of $9,179 in the salary components overall, with a degree of additional refinement by the time we get to year end. It's highly possible that this division will be at budget balance as well, Mr. Chairman. Moving to page 93 and directing your attention to the left box, budget 20 versus budget 21. Once again, we see salaries at a reduction over the prior year at $9,500. We'll see an increase in overtime of $6,000, an increase in callback of $2,400. The director will speak to the justification for that when his turn is up. And so we believe that net position of all salary changes will be an $1,100 decrease in 21 versus the 2020 budget. Overall, we expect this department to be, then moving to the center box, my apologies, comparing the 20 budget to the 20 projection, we expect to see a salary savings of $8,388, while we expect to see a cost increase in overtime and callback by a similar amount, $8,202. Overall, we expect that this department will be a balanced budget at the end of FY20 at June 30. With your permission, sir, moving to page 94. This is 101-406. This is the zoning board of review. Budget has decreased by $4,752 for the next year for 21, based on what the department believes will be reduced need for zoning hearings. In the FY20 budget, it appears that that department is at or just below budget, and will be a balanced budget by year end. There are no other categories for this division. Moving to page 95, 101-406, zoning board of review. Similarly, we see a slight increase in salaries, a $400 increase in the 21 budget over the 20 budget. And for FY20, we expect that this department will come in at budgeted salaries of $17,906 versus the budget of $18,000. All things considered, we expect this department to be at budget. Moving to page 96, Division 101-407, Building Board. Salaries for this division will be a slight increase of $1,512. My apologies, Chairman. Page 96 is a revenue page, and that page represents building application fees. We expect to see a slight increase in building application fees for 21 of $1,512. And in the 20 budget, we're seeing a slight reduction in budget. We see a budget shortfall of $518. That could change depending upon activity over the next several weeks as we close out June 30 of 2020. Moving to page 97. This is 101-407, Building Board. Based on salaries, we expect salaries to be level at 20 in budget 21 versus budget 20. And likewise here in budget 20, if you look at the center box, we're expecting that we will be at or below budget for the year. This department will be a balanced budget. Moving to page 98. This is for the division 101-408, Housing Board. This budget, this division technically has no budget. There's a slight projection of $5 of expense. That just could be a misposting, but this has no active activity posted, either revenue or expenditures. Moving to page 99, 101-411, Building Inspection Prosecution. These were former divisions that were formerly used by the Department of Inspection and Standards. The Building Inspection Prosecution is now housed and contained within the Law Department and is contained within their budget. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this completes the review of the 3-box reports associated with the Department of Inspection and Standards. Also in your package, as noted earlier, Mr. Chairman, is the department's organizational chart, and I believe they have submitted an annual report as well. This completes the 3-box review, and I'm at your disposal to take questions and/or Director Achute to answer those questions as well.
Questions, committee members?
No, Mr. Chair, not at this time.
Okay, so let me begin. I guess we'll start with the revenue side.
Yep.
So, our present budget in 2020, we believe you're gonna collect more than we budgeted by about $11,000. Is this correct?
That is correct.
So, right now, looks like we're gonna go deep into the rest of the fiscal year. So for a quarter of the fiscal year, at this time, city government will be closed down per the mayor's wishes. So how do we account, and I directed to the director, how do you account that you'll be able to continue these kind of revenue streams for the present fiscal year, when city government shut down for basically an entire quarter?
We've been operating since the beginning of the shutdown. We've been operating at about 95% capacity. So we're still collecting permits, processing permits and applications, collecting checks, and doing inspections on a day-to-day basis. It really hasn't impacted our department, other than that we're working more remotely than anything.
Director, do you have a running list of how many permits, et cetera, revenue, permits that you have done the past couple of months?
We run every 6 weeks to make sure that we were on target with the budget that was assessed for 2020. We've been running that, and that's been running pretty smooth. We can print out an entire list if you so wish to see one of all projects pulled for the entire fiscal year 2020 up to this current date. It would take me a couple of days, but we could get it printed out and sent over to you.
So, again, the question, so I'd like to see that. I'd like to see what kind of permits are being issued, how many, and how much money. So are you saying right now that that there has not been a change in permit fees during this COVID-19 issue?
No, we've seen no reduction in construction whatsoever in the city.
Okay. And what about, so I just would need you to show me that, you need to provide that information to an order for tomorrow, okay?
Sure.
Okay. And then why don't you provide it for every month for the fiscal year, okay?
Okay.
The next thing is, can you tell me about your staff? Who's in, who's out? I guess we can use your organizational chart. So who's working, who's reporting to work, who's staying home and not working and getting paid?
Sure. So our senior department clerks, I believe we have Marisol and Erin Bradley.
I'll go down the list of the positions, all right? Let me try
Okay.
this first. In the administration, inspection stands, you have 2 administrative assistants. Are they working? Are they coming in? Or are they staying home and not working, getting paid?
They are coming in periodically. They are not in the office every day.
Right. And when they are, so they're then in the office working, or they're at home not working, right?
No, they're either at home working or in the office working. They are working, but both in the office and remotely.
Okay. And what about your administrative coordinator for INS?
The inspection coordinator?
Yeah, INS in the administration, yes.
Yes. Yep. She's working. She schedules all of the inspections.
Okay. And
She's remote. She's working from home.
remote, okay. And then your deputy director of inspections and standards?
Is currently vacant right now. He's the
Okay.
acting director of public properties.
All right, and you're the director of inspection standards?
Correct.
Inspection coordinator?
The inspection coordinator is Ashley. She's working every day remotely.
Okay. The secretary to the boards of review?
Yep, working home remotely every day.
There's 3 senior department clerks.
Yes. Two,
Working home?
two are not working. They all have, yeah, two are not working. One has the capability to work from home. The two that
Okay.
are not working from home come in periodically to deliver meals.
Deliver meals, okay. What about the zoning assistant?
Yep, she's working both remotely and in the office.
Okay. Building inspector, they got two building inspectors, one apprentices?
Trying to see, whereabouts are you, Councilman?
And structures and zoning.
Okay, structures and zoning. So we have the senior plans examiner, and inspectors are all working remotely.
I got two building inspector ones. Are they all working remotely?
Yes.
Okay. How about the two inspector, excuse me, I got four. I got two inspector one apprentices and two inspector ones, non-apprentices.
Okay, so we have an apprentice that was filled, which she has not started yet. We have a vacancy in a building inspector one, still vacant. And then we have an inspector three in the minimum housing and another inspector three in minimum housing. They are not working remotely or at home, but they are coming in to deliver meals.
Coming in to deliver meals. Who are they
Yes.
delivering meals?
To students and people throughout the community. They come in a couple times a week, they get one of the cars and they deliver the meals.
And what about the two building inspector twos?
So inspector number two, Mr. Bibby, he is working every day remotely and in person, depending on what he needs. He does the vacant buildings. Mello is the building inspector one. He's a housing court liaison, and he's been doing the majority of the housing complaints and working with the tenants and the landlords.
Right. How about the permit technician one? You have one of them.
The permit technician one is not working in the office. She's remote. And she does have the capability to come in the office on occasion, but most of it's remote for her.
How about the two? You have two permit technician twos.
Yep, they're both mixed from remote and in person.
Okay. How about the two plan examiners?
We have two plans examiners. Both of them are working remotely.
How about the one renewal inspection two? Inspector two.
No, he is not working currently.
How about you have two renewal inspectors three? Are they working?
Yeah, the renewal inspectors threes, they're the ones that are coming in also and helping deliver meals. As far as their day-to-day, they are not working on that. They do not have the capacity to do so.
So is it they can't do their job, these renewal inspectors?
Yeah.
They deliver meals instead?
Yeah, we're trying to find alternatives for things for them to do that can benefit the community. The reason why they're not working is because it's heavy interaction inside occupied homes with tenants, and we don't have the required PPE to keep them safe to do those inspections.
So have you been issued the personal protection equipment at all?
Yes, we have. It's just very limited.
Okay. And how about the sanitizing stuff? Do you have that?
And sanitizer, yes, we have that.
Okay. All right, how about your two senior plan examiners?
One of the positions is vacant. The other one is presently working remotely and in person.
All right. And then you have your chief plumbing and mechanical?
Yep, he is completely remote.
And what about your one mechanical equipment inspector three?
He's remote, but he also does in-person inspections.
What about your one plumbing and mechanical inspector?
Working remotely.
Okay. What about your one chief of electrical inspection in electrical installations?
He is remote and in person.
What about your deputy chief of electrical?
Same, remote and in person.
What about your electrical inspector 3?
Again, the same, remote and in person.
Okay. And I guess the zoning board of review, are they meeting?
They just restarted. They have a meeting tomorrow night. There was a little bit of a hiccup due to we had public meetings. We were trying to figure out what's the best way to hold those meetings. And so tomorrow they have a Zoom meeting. I believe they have a full docket for May and they have a full docket for June, which will catch up on what they missed in March and April.
Okay. So I just, so let's talk about, so you're saying you're up and running. So I've received several emails from several constituents across the city, and they're stating that, that permits are not being issued. And in fact, one person, the latest windstorm damaged the roof, pulled electrical service off the house, and they cannot get permits for repairs. Another person said there's a restaurant, they can't get a permit to redo their restaurant. There is a subdivision, I got another email from a subdivision, and they weren't able to get their building permits. I also have another email from a condo association in which they weren't able to get their permits. And I also received another where we have another person who has another business. They weren't able to get their business permits from the office. I also have another homeowner who had electrical problems, and they weren't able to get their permits to this day. So I'm getting running lists of emails from people across the city that seems that they're not getting this work. I'm glad that we're delivering meals. I'm glad it's being delivered to the kids. I get all that. But my concern is that also that we're not providing the services that we actually paid these people to do. So I need you to do is give me a true running list of the entire 12, well, up to date, all permits, all types of permits, and what's happening. And then is there a backlog of permit requests in your shop? And if so, how many? And how is it being addressed?
I can get all that information to you.
All right. So that gives me concern. The next question, I want to go back to the revenue. And this is something that I'm still trying to understand, is that what's being relayed to me tonight, of course, is that the city's closed down for this third, but yet construction and everything's still moving along during this COVID-19 crisis. And yet we project not only that we're going to still continue to get revenue for this last quarter when the city shut down, but also we project that we're going to get an additional more revenue of another $1 million. Another million, 1.3. Can you account on how not only are we going to meet the original number of this year, but on top of it, make another 1.3 mil for next fiscal year? All indication that we're seeing and reading seems to be something's not. Once again, we're still trying to connect the presentations by the administration and this finance committee and the financial realities that we're reading every day in the newspaper, on the news, and what's going on. And it seems like the city of Providence seems to be the only one that seems to be somewhat immune to what's going on across the world. So can you explain to me how your department expects to not only achieve this year 7.5, but next year achieve another 1.3 mil? So can you please explain to me what are you guys doing? What's the recipe? Because, but you're not the only department, by the way. Every department is presenting a rosy revenue picture. And so, and like I said earlier, we're trying to put together a package, and we're going to be now forwarding to all the cities and towns and other states and the federal government to explain how we're doing it, to show how we're not impacted by the COVID-19 financial crisis. So can you kind of give me a little detail on how that you plan on achieving for the end of this fiscal year, and how you plan on getting an additional 1.3 mil?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. So 1.3 million that we've been grabbing is identical to everything that I've been seeing as it trends every 6 weeks. Since January 1st to current date, every 6 weeks, we're bringing in between 1.2 and 1.5 million every 6 weeks in permit. So with that trend and the work that we've been discussing with developers and contractors, there seems to be no hope in that to finish out the rest of this fiscal year with that additional 1.3. So the trend is staying the course. Part of the reason why I think that we're not seeing a negative impact is because the mayor did not shut down construction within the city, nor did the governor shut down construction. It was heralded that the construction is the backbone of the U.S. economy and remains strong. And some of this work that is being done is also within confrontations and consultations with companies and developers that have been coming to me saying that they have large projects that they're going forward with, that some of them they're building with their own money, and some of them have private lending and public lending, and it just doesn't seem like it's stopping them. Some companies have actually stated to me that they're accelerating their construction projects due to the fact that they don't have to deal with the hassles of directing traffic and a lot of other things that happen during construction. So that was good to hear. One notable project we have coming up is a 13-story high-rise that's a modular construction. That's going to be permitted at the beginning of the new fiscal year, around the end of July, beginning of August. And it's one of a kind, and it hasn't been done in Providence yet. This will be the first one in Providence. Quite a remarkable building. That building alone will generate almost $1 million in permit revenue between all aspects of just building permit, plumbing, mechanical, gas, and so forth. So when we have significant projects of those size that come in, and they're not slowing down, that's where we can see an increase in our revenue. And of course, all the trends that we have come up with to project our revenue costs are running detailed spreadsheets every 6 weeks to see what's come in. Are we seeing a slowdown? Are we seeing an increase? And we haven't seen anything that indicates there's going to be any stop.
Okay, so I mean, I'm glad to hear that. it just seems to be contrary to what's going on out there, and also what emails we're receiving. I have another question for you. When you crafted your budget, did the administration has stated they've asked the department heads to cut their budget by 30%? Were you tasked with that request?
Yes, I was.
And did you cut your budget by 30%?
Yes, I was able to achieve that without touching any personnel.
So how did you cut your budget by 30%? What were the cuts?
Most of the cuts came from contract services that we had set up, boardings and demolitions and things of that nature. A lot of the larger areas.
So you've cut your budget by 30%?
Correct.
All right, so can you provide those cuts to the internal auditor?
Yes.
All right. Okay. The next question is for the tax assessor came before this committee, and she was presenting that her first presentation was to hire a position, and her first argument was that she was saying that your department was not, putting proper values to people's permits for home improvements. Examples. The example she kept on using was, they would issue a permit, let's say, to do windows, and yet then later on, your department would miss that they put a roof on. And she said what she needed a person in there to oversee those kinds of permitting. And then as we continued down the road, she then kind of shifted gears when that didn't go well. So before I get to the shifting gears, can you explain to us, how does that work? Someone's looking to do from home improvement. Can you explain how that process works in your shop? And first, let's start off with, tell us how that process works in your shop.
Okay, so,
Correct.
all right, that's pretty straightforward. If somebody is looking to do any type of home improvements, additions, renovations, new construction of whatever sort it may be, we ask them for their construction cost, and that construction cost, so let's say it's $50,000, and they will get a building permit fee based on their construction cost, and then that's where we collect our revenue on the project as far as when we do our permitting. And then the tax assessor collects on the other end once the property has been completed and a temporary certificate of occupancy or a certificate of occupancy has been issued for that project, then they be able to go out there, do their tax assessment, and make an evaluation of what the property is now. So typically, if somebody does $50,000 in revenue in their construction costs in their kitchen, it might add an additional value of now 75,000, let's say, for numbers. That 75,000 won't be captured in the construction cost because we don't look at value after completion.
So, but is your, she was making an example, like somehow your office or department was missing, that they were gonna put windows in, but then they put windows and a roof in. Does your department miss those? That was her allegation, that was the tax assessor's allegation. So, is that happen in your department? And if
It
not,
has. Yes.
explain that.
So that's happened in the past. The best way I can explain it is when somebody comes in to me and they say, I need a permit just to put the foundation in before the ground freezes. Will you give me a foundation only permit? And I say, sure, I just need your documents so that what's going on that foundation can hold up. So they give me all the information. They get the permit for the foundation only. Now they only give me a price for that foundation. So we assess a cost for the permit for that foundation. Now, some people think that they have a permit in hand and it's just like a free-for-all license and they just keep adding on and keep building. Does this happen from time to time? It does. And it takes building inspectors to go out there and do their job and realize you've moved on beyond the scope of what you've been permitted to do, and then have to correct the situation from there. So have people put in windows in the house and then the owner say, hey, I got money left over, why don't we do a roof too? And they think, well, we got a permit, we'll just keep moving with it. That does happen from time to time. We always try to do our best due diligence to collect the additional cost of construction so that we can include that in the permit fee and readjust with the larger scope of work.
So the way it works is the person comes in, the company comes in, they ask for a permit, you give them a permit based on X, and the value is based on, I presume, appropriate, like, I don't know, real estate standards or some type of, probably some reference manuals of some sort, right, Director?
So it's based on labor and materials for the construction cost. It doesn't include like land or anything of that nature. But it includes just labor and materials. And that's usually by a cost of square foot. And that's a very average estimate. And that's based on run-of-the-mill average finishes. and not going with soapstone countertops, but maybe going with a laminate countertop, things of that nature.
So Director, so now let's take the scenario the assessor was portraying as something that she felt that she needed to look over your shoulder and your department's shoulder. So someone puts a permit to put windows in, they then put a roof in. Your inspector goes out there, they see the permits for windows, they see them put the roof on. Your inspector then does what? So you need to get another permit for it and then pay a fee for it, is that correct?
Yeah, the inspector would actually state to the contractor that you've added, work, you work beyond the scope of your permit. You need to come in and amend your permit and include the additional construction cost for the added work that you went beyond your scope, and then reconcile that permit fee, and then we can go from there.
So Director, when that happens, then do you forward that information to the assessor's office? Is that where that goes? Or do they get it from, how does the assessor's office get this information?
So the assessor's office, I don't know the inner workings of the assessor's office, so I can't really speak to that. But I do know that I have
Does
them.
does your office send it to them? Does your office send it to them or put it in the an S drive or something for the city of some sort?
We print out spreadsheets as they ask for them of addresses that have had work done, the type of work done, that sort of thing, and we forwarded that on to them.
Do you wait for them to ask, or do you do it simply as like a matter of business, like every week or something you send it to them?
Usually it's every 6 months.
Okay, so can I make a suggestion? So the assessor felt that she didn't get that information in real time, et cetera, et cetera. So could your shop, instead of sending it every 6 months, could send it either every weekly or bi-weekly to the assessor's office, and then she can utilize her staff then to update her files, and then she can capture, in her mind, additional revenue. So I think that will solve her problem. Is that something your office could do, Director?
Can I elaborate a little bit from my experience in working other communities with other assessors?
Please do. Yes, sir.
So the way I've always noticed it work best is with the building department and the assessor's office in conjunction. So if let's take a large commercial apartment complex, right? So we're renovating mill buildings and we're going to turn those into apartments. Well, those buildings usually take time, sometimes a couple of years to be built. So what I have been actually talking with the assessor is getting either herself or a delegate from her office that can come in, and during the time where we issue a temporary certificate of occupancy or a certificate of occupancy, once the letter of completion, once these projects are finished, that the assessor is part of that sign off before we can issue that CO. This is a typical thing that is done in other municipalities, kind of an industry standard. And is that a municipal law? I'm not aware if it's a municipal.
So what I would do is, that seems to me it's an additional step. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. What I would do is, City Solicitor Chavarini, you on the line, sir?
Yes, sir.
So could you look into that process that the director's talking about? That now that the tax assessor would sign off on the CO? Is that what you're saying, Director?
Yeah, just like I have plumbing, mechanical, electrical, fire department, they all have to sign off before the CO can be issued.
Okay.
Add her as a step to sign off so that once the project has been released, they have the CO in hand. I know that the assessor has been able to go out there and capture in real time the new assessed tax evaluation for that property prior to the occupancy being issued.
Was that any different than what you're doing right now, what you're saying every 6 months you send that information to them?
Yes, it is different.
So, well, tell me, because every 6 months, isn't that real? In your mind, you gave an example of something may take a long time, right?
Right.
Right? So let's play it out. So something takes a long time, so let's go back. So is it why couldn't you just simply forward that permit or have the assessor have access to your system with the permits being issued at the same time?
So they have access to it, but they can't assess the value of the building based on the construction cost.
Well, why can't they?
Because the construction cost is always less than what the value of the building will be after you construct.
So, okay, if that's the answer, then what's their problem? I still don't understand what their problem, they cannot make an assessment of what?
I think in the context of the way the assessor and I were talking about it, and I was actually the one that had approached her that I'd like to work with her office on this, is because it picks up that real-time tax revenue.
No, I get that, but can you answer what I'd like you to answer is the question of that, which is, you said the conundrum the assessor has is, they cannot get an assessment of the value of the building with the permit that's issued for the construction?
Correct.
No, but why? I don't understand, what's their problem? I don't understand why can't they do that? If they're the assessor's office, right? They have an existing assessment of a building, it's accurate.
Yeah.
And then the guy comes in and says, I'm gonna put a $2 million into the building, and here's the construction permit.
Right. So
What's the disconnect?
all right, so let's scale this down a little bit so that it's a little bit more understandable, or at least I think it might be easier for me to portray.
Yep.
You want to have a house built, so you purchase some land for $50,000, and you're going to be the person that overlooks the construction, which means you're going to be the homeowner that's the GC. So you're going to hire the guy that's going to do framing and your foundation and so on, because you want to keep a very tight-knit scale on how much money you're spending to build this house. So let's say you purchase the land for $1,000, you build the house for a total of $250,000. You have now invested into this property $300,000. That doesn't mean that property is worth $300,000. That property is worth in excess of $300,000 because there is always equity in a building project as soon as it's completed and usable.
So director, but so what does it matter if the assessor gets that information at that time or the assessor gets it when the CO is issued? They have to do the same. They have to do the same mathematical assessment formula. That doesn't. So I don't. So there's no really distinguish. You get the permit of X or the CO, but it's based on the same thing, which is the residual value of the property and the value of the permit and the additional improvements. Only difference is the signing off on a CO. So what is the signing of the CO triggers the assessor's ability to be able to do an assessment? That doesn't make sense.
What it does is it allows the assessor to gain access to the property and do a very detailed assessment of the property. So
can the assessor do it now?
So it is up to the individual that owns the property if they will allow the assessor in. Otherwise, the assessor usually will. And this is one of the disconnects that I have in my department, which causes us some headache, is on whether like.
So right now, the assessor, it's voluntary to let the assessor come into someone's private home, correct?
Yes.
And under your proposed scenario with the CO, a private home, the assessor, you have no choice but to let the assessor into your home, correct?
It would be that way, yes, to mandate the sign off.
So before I get to that, Council Cheverini?
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like you to flesh that out first. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, before we now add another intrusion into someone's private home, I get the businesses and have that now we have an assessor walking around someone's house up and down. The public needs to know that if they're going to do any kind of improvements, that the assessor has a right now to go to their home. So I want to know what that means legally and how that process works. Now, don't get me wrong, if the council and the administration wants to do this, then it seems like you're going to have to pass a law. I think because that's an additional intrusion into the, private home. I just have, and also, did you check on the, legality of reassessing someone's home between required assessments, Mr. Solicitor?
Sure.
Did you, I asked that earlier, so we need that answer, okay?
Okay.
Councilwoman Anthony?
No, I think you hit the questions, Mr. Chairman. I just, I think there's a difference between, increase in valuation of the property isn't what the value of the building permits show. So I think they do have to do, like Vision Government Solutions, who we hire to do the revals, the statistical revals and full revals. I mean, they've got to do quite an in-depth analysis, and I think this is the skill set of the inspections and standards people, but this is the skill set of the assessor. So they get out there and do a full revaluation like Vision Government Solutions would. I mean, it's just not a matter of knowing the value of the building permits.
Right, I mean, and Councilman, my issue is that when we do the reval, we have the Vision Company, it's still a voluntary action if you want them to come into your house. And don't get me wrong, we're all looking for tax dollars, I get that, but I'm also someone who's, I respect people's privacies, and this that whole Constitution thing kicks in my head. And I just want to make sure that if all of a sudden it's going to be like someone says to do some improvement on the house, let's say put a new roof on their house. So now the assessor says, well, I know you do a new roof, but now I'm going to inspect your entire house from top to bottom. You know what I mean? And before you get the CO. And if the council wants to do that, I get it, but I think we need to know what that means. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
I totally agree with you on that point. I had never heard until, I'm just not sure about the legality or of the assessor coming in at the time the CO was offered. I'm just talking about the immediacy of that contact. I'm not talking about, I agree. I think we should look into the legality. I think that's a good question.
Thank you, Councilman. And I would just say that I still think we can at least address some of the assessors issues, which is if they, instead of waiting 6 months to give them the backlog of permits, what I think you can start doing right now is you could at least send her office, on a weekly basis, the permits that are issued. You can do that now. And that can at least maybe address some of the assessors' concerns. And then we can flesh out this whole idea about the CO and all that kind of conversation. Does that make sense, members of the committee? Does that make sense? I'm asking all of you,
Yes,
Councilman Anthony, you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm not hand down.
Does that make sense of the committee? I'm sorry?
Yes.
All right. So what I asked the director, could you begin the process to at least forward that information, at least the issuance of the permits, those kinds of permits, to the assessor's office, like in a bi-weekly or weekly fashion versus 6 months? Can your office do that? Can you answer that question, sir?
Sure, if I may, Chairman.
Right.
The
Could you
reason
start
why-
doing that?
So the reason why we're doing 6 months is because the assessor can't make an assessment until the project is complete. So every 6 months is the occupancies that have been issued over that 6 months. So they may get 400 occupancies from July 1 to December 31st. And then they can do the assessing for the taxes on those, because they can't do an assessment on a project that's midstream that hasn't been completed yet.
So then, Director, let me ask you this question. Is it when can they do it? Like, when does your office know the project is complete? Like, someone's just putting windows in their house, just windows in the house. Get a permit, windows in the house. Tell me then your process. When does your office know, oh, the windows are done?
So when the windows are done, the contractor calls us and lets us know that they would like an inspection, a final inspection. Typically, that final inspection is our building inspector goes out, assesses the work, takes a look at everything inside and outside the house, and then signs off on it, and we issue either a letter of completion or occupancy or a temporary certificate of occupancy.
So perfect. So then, by the way, I think you actually answered my question. So it seems to me that what you should send to the assessors, not the permit at the beginning, but the sign-off letter and a copy of the permit and the value at the end. And then you just forward that. So you can still, I'm sure, you don't have, my point is that I know you're saying 6 months, but I'm sure like this week, there were sign-offs on jobs by your inspectors, right? So what you do is you send her that and the copy of the permit for the value now. So every week you send her that paperwork versus the beginning of the paperwork, the end of the paperwork, which is those two pieces. So now her office has the sign off and the permit. Now she can do that. Boom, now the work is done, it's complete, and she can now reassess. So it seems to me what's been going on is you've been forwarding the wrong stuff to them. You should forward them the permit and your sign off. Because even the 6 months don't make sense. Why wait for that? Wait until they're done at that point. Can you do that?
Yes, we can.
Now that I think that solves the assessor's issue, which is not your issue and her issue. Your issue that the project's complete, and her issue is that she has real time that the project's complete. She has a copy of the permit and the value. Now she can do her assessment. Mr. Mancini, are you in agreement, sir? Does that make sense? And then Councilwoman, Vice Chair Ryan. And then Councilman Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I agree with most of Director Achute's testimony, and I understand your line of questioning, but may I remind the committee that the assessor, I believe in her closing remarks, made note of the fact that the reason why she had asked for a quality control analyst was
Mr.
to...
McVeigh, I don't want to get into that. No, I understand the second piece. Listen, her major premise was that, let's try to solve that, because clearly there's an issue. The issue right now is that they're getting it 6 months past, so now the assessor's issue was, how do I get real-time values? So now we're gonna solve that. Please, let's talk about that one. We're talking about that issue there. How do we solve that real-time issue, which is this? Mr. Director, what I'd like you to do is that you, upon the completion of your inspectors, then you forward the check off and a copy of the permit to the assessor, and then she can deal with that assessor issue, which is the new real-time value, okay?
Okay, we can set
That
that.
solves her, that was her problem. She said she was losing revenue. She said she wasn't getting real-time information. You gave us a problem, we're solving it. Forget about the idea of, I understand what was going on the other end. That's got to do with a political conundrum. We're gonna solve a problem. So I got Vice Chair Ryan, then Councilman Taylor.
Excuse me, thank you, Mr. Chair. You actually answered, walked through the resolve that I was going to propose. It's clear that if the inspections office provides the occupancy or the sign off on the project, that the assessor should have the information she needs or is looking for and testify that she needed in the last hearing. So I think we have solved the problem, and a simple internal control makes a lot of sense there. So thank you. It was good to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Councilman Taylor?
Yes, Chairman. I have a question because we had the fire department in and I questioned them. On your revenue, it says an increase of 1.367 because of, many projects developed and building. When we had the fire department in, they told us that their increase for plan review, which is the start of the building process, was only going to increase by 150,000. But then in the same budget, they had the fire department inspections were decreasing by 30,000. So I didn't understand it then, and I was wondering if you could explain, because obviously you're having more of an increase than what they're saying, because the fire department has to go out and get the CO and everything, same as your inspectors. So if you're showing an increase for your inspectors, how's the fire department showing a decrease for their inspectors?
I'm not sure how the fire department operates. I don't know under where they get their budgeting for inspections and things of that nature.
Can you go through? I want to build an apartment complex. Can you? And I want to see where I'm off here. So I want to build an apartment complex. I would go to the fire department first to get plan review, right?
You would go to both the building department and the fire department.
Both get plan reviews.
Correct.
Okay. So now I get my plan reviews, I pay my fees, and I stop building, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So now when we're all done and built, I'm going to keep paying the fees as I go along, whatever I need, if it needs a master box, that's fire department. If it needs other things that you're asking for, then you would, the building inspections would get it. But now to finalize it, both you and the fire department have to go out there and inspect it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if you're saying that it's gonna increase by that much money, by 1.3, I'm just a little confused because the fire department only had $150,000 increase. Because
So-
same thing, there's a lot of, gonna be a lot of projects and blah, 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 blah. And I'm confused on this. I don't know if you can help me or someone can help me.
I can explain my portion, my division portion, and explain to you. I don't, again, know the cost of the permit fees or plan review fees for the fire department, or if they're charging for inspections. I don't know their operations well enough to talk or speak to that. On the building department side, we collect multiple fees. So we collect the building permit fee itself for the building that's going to be constructed. We collect fees for any mechanical equipment, electrical, plumbing, gas, water, so on. So there are multiple fees involved in that. We do not collect those fees as an ongoing basis. They usually come in one lump sum prior to the permit being issued. And then there's usually a small nominal fee of about $175 for a new occupancy. I have been working with the fire department in order to streamline inspections and to work with them closely so that when their guys go out to do the fire alarm and the sprinkler system testing, that my guys go out there and do their final inspection at the same time, so everybody's on the same page. But we don't ask for additional inspection fees or anything like that per inspection. Everything is a one lump sum when you apply for the permit.
But if you have, let's say, if you have a list of 50 projects going on, the fire department should have the same list, correct?
Possibly. It depends if they need fire review or not.
Well, most buildings, every building needs a fire review, doesn't it? They got to get a plan review. They got to get a plan review to start.
Yes, they get a plan review, but unfortunately, the way the state is set up, not every plan requires fire department to look it through. So they don't charge for everyone.
But they would need a fire inspector if it's a building's going to be you and I guess, so we build a building at 1 Washington Street. Do you and the fire department go out at the same time and inspect that, or different times?
Different times.
Fire department's inspecting what they need, and then do they get in contact with you or vice versa? Do you say, okay, we went and checked 1 Washington Street and we found X, Y, and Z, and or does the fire department do the same?
So no, so we each have our own separate and distinct function, but the fire department, what they will do is they'll go out and do their inspection, pass or fail. We'll go out and do the electrical inspection, let's say for a fire alarm. We may pass or fail under the electrical portion of it. When it comes down to final inspections, I send, which is new to the inspectors, but I send them out with the fire department when they're ringing through the fire alarm system, when they're ringing through the sprinkler system, to get them familiar with the activations of the system, more of a cross-training application there. But if the fire department is charging for those inspections to be done, we're not charging on our end for those to be done. Again, I don't know the full operation of the fire department and how they assess their fees.
I just didn't understand how they came to us and said that their fire department their fire plan reviews were going up. Same explanation, that there's going to be more building, but their fire department inspections were going down. I couldn't figure that out because they have to go out and inspect those same buildings that you're inspecting.
Yeah, the way our inspectors are currently operating is remotely. So we're doing videos, photographs, in some cases, we're going out and doing actual physical inspections at these premises. But we had taken the lead on the state when this COVID virus initially hit, which was to become remote. One thing that you may want to take into consideration is the cost for the fees. I'm not sure what the fire department charges for their plan review, but I can say, pretty reasonably, I've seen building permits come through, and we've issued building permits for $800,000 for a building permit fee. And the fire plan review fee was like $125,000. So it's significantly less than what we charge in the building end of things.
But you guys are working together, so if we're
Yeah.
building that place, that the fire sends you over a completion, so you would know that on the fire side it's done. Vice versa, they would know that you finished your inspection, so someone's not waiting for one or the other.
No. We're in constant communication.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So Director, let's continue with your revenue stuff. If you go to it, so I noticed, by the way, in the structure zoning column, right? You view that you're gonna raise an additional 1.1 mil. Is that correct?
Let me get to, which page are you on, Chairman?
We're on page 88 of Mr. Mancini's 3-box report.
All right, 88. Okay, yeah, the 1.376.
So tell me, what structural
Chairman?
zoning? Yes,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
if you permit me an opportunity to join in response to Councilman Taylor, I needed a second to pull the records that were discussed under fire and fire plan reviews. So with that said, the fire plan review fees were projected to increase by $189,000 over the prior year, $1,050,000, representing an 18% increase in that particular revenue line item. If I look at the largest portion of the building inspection department, which is structures and zoning, that 1.1 million projection is a 22% increase. I would suggest and submit to you, sir, and your committee, that they are comparable, just that the scope of their dollars are significantly different. So I suggest to you and to Councilman Taylor that they are accurate, and I support that in the record. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Vice Chair, yeah, I had some questions, but I'll, if you have questions, of course.
Mr.
Chair?
Chair, on the same vein, I do think that their projection for revenue on inspections is high for the remainder of this fiscal year. And I would like to request as a deliverable that we see what they have in queue for projects. I'm sure that, we're almost to the end of the year. For them to be forecasting that number, they must be counting projects in queue with anticipation of them closing out or coming to completion by the end of the year, as well as new projects coming online. I'd like to see what those numbers look like, so that we can basically true up that revenue and which is anticipated. It's a big amount. It's a hefty amount. I just cannot believe, I think we've heard the chairman mention over and over again, that the budget that was presented before, that is before us, is very much a business as usual, and we're not seeing the tightening of our belts that we had expected. I just think that the projections in this budget to get us through the end of this year are definitely overstated, and I'd like to see some detail that warranted those numbers. So can that be a deliverable, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Director, do you understand the question, Director? But you,
I believe you're looking for the remaining portion of this fiscal year, 2020.
At this point, I'm looking for, I'd like to have a 17-month forecast of what you've got in queue, but that might be going out too far. But I'm truly questioning the closeout of this fiscal year. I think it's too aggressive, too ambitious. And I just don't think that we're going to hit those numbers. That is certainly going to have an impact on the FY21 budget. So I would take, for ease of your effort, I will take the projects that you base your projections on what their status is, where they are in queue, so that you can justify that anticipated revenue for FY20.
Okay, I can definitely do that.
Thank
Our permit fees, just so that you're aware, our revenue is collected at the time the permit is issued, not the time that the building is closed out and CO is issued.
Your own testimony tonight, sir, you stated that when you go out to do final inspections, if any additional work was done, you increase your permitting fees?
That's very minor, but when we do our, like for example, the Brown University building,
Yep.
it's over on Angel, they already paid for their permit. So I'm not anticipating collecting more, but they've already paid us over $900,000. So
Okay.
I
Your
don't
job is actually easier then. So give me the projects that you have in queue that your revenue for the remainder of 20 are based on. And if it's the front end, it's the front end.
Okay, all right, then I will do that for you.
Thank you. Vice Chair, you all set?
The chair I am.
So, Mr. Director, I want to go through some of your numbers here. In line item 43171 says structure zoning. What is that? Can you tell me what does that represent?
Building permits only.
What kind of permit, sir?
Building permits, like to construct any building.
Okay, all right. So that's at that. So then we go to the next one, which is plumbing, draining, and gas, right? So you're looking that it's going to go down a little bit. And then you have electrical, and you propose that you're going to go down about 100,000 in electrical. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you have mechanical. You're proposing you're going to go up 100,000.
Yep.
Okay. So can you explain to me why would, if you think your structure is going up, your plumbing is going to stay the same, but your mechanical is going to go up, but your electrical is going down. Can you tell me why that's the case? Because
Sure.
that's a $200,000 swing.
Sure. So, for example, structures and zoning, right? Those are usually your building permits, and those building permits are pulled first. Then as the project develops and you start getting your infrastructure inside that building is when the other permits are pulled. So for example, proposed 21, the extra additional 149,000 in mechanical, that work,
Yes, sir.
that work alone will come from the Brown University building that they're doing all that mechanical work on. That's because that building hasn't pulled their mechanical permits yet.
So has that building already pulled its electrical permits? Is that why?
No, the only thing that building has is a building permit.
So that's why I'm asking. So why wouldn't this is not yours and the administration's predictions. Why would you presume that the revenue would go up in mechanical, but also why would it not go up in electrical? That's what I don't understand.
So all of that is developed when we do our plan review. We look at the scope of each individual project and what's being done in that project. So
Yeah, but I know, but Director, what assumptions change? Because I mean, clearly, you when you did structure zoning, you said these are the assumptions that we believe, so it's going to give us X, right? These are the so when it comes to mechanical and electrical, are the assumptions different? That's why you have this 200,000 swing. I'm trying to understand why would the assumptions be different? If you feel that, and the administration feels that the building, what's happening in the building community is going to continue to prosper and be a rosy pitch in the upcoming present fiscal year and the future fiscal year, then why would it be different in electrical? That's what I'm trying to understand.
it's
Like why is the picture not as rosy in electrical? That's the bottom line.
valid question. And if I may, a lot of that it has to deal with the type of projects that are being constructed and the scope of those projects. Some of those projects may not have heavily developed electrical systems that will increase a high permit fee coming in for a particular project, but you might pay more for a brand new HVAC system that's going into the project. So different components as they develop within projects warrant a different permit price and cost of labor and materials to do the work.
Okay, all right. But, all right, so now let's go to the next one, inspection violations. the present projected for this year is about $724, but you're expecting the upcoming fiscal year that you will actually go up almost 100% of that to almost $100,000. What is your office doing that, I mean, so that's a dramatic jump. What is your office doing that you believe, what you're not doing now, since you're only going to collect $724 of violations for this present fiscal year, why would your office all of a sudden be collecting almost $100,000 the upcoming fiscal year? What's changing? What's changing in the formula?
So the formula.
That's a pretty big swing.
Yes, I would agree with you. The inspection violations are people that are not working with permits, that have violated zoning. So anything to do with zoning violations, building code violations, things of that nature. We've started to see an uptick in that as of right now. And projected, of course, going off of historical review of what's currently going on, it projects us to be bringing in those fines and fees for inspection violations, such as.
But I mean, that's a big swing. What I'm saying is, are you saying, so we expect that people are going to be violating the ordinances and the laws greater in the upcoming fiscal year? Because that's what it seems to imply.
I don't think.
Are you saying right now people are violating the present law and ordinance? You folks are just not. You're not. I don't know. You're not doing the inspection, or you're not. Not getting the job done. I'm trying. And that's a big thing. I mean, inspection violations is big. You're counting on $100,000 in your revenue there. So that means, did you double the guard? Are you tripling the effort? I mean, that's a major conversation that's going on. So what's happening? Why is it not happening now? If you're changing or doubling the guard or tripling the effort, why don't you do it now for the end of this fiscal year, if that's the case? Because now we're going into May and June, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Then that number should go from $724 to at least tens of thousands of dollars potentially. Considering that you believe that there's at least, we should be collecting at least about $25,000 in fines per quarter. So that's a dramatic 180. So I need more detail on why your office or department believes that is why you can't do it now, and why do you think it's going to occur next fiscal year?
Very
more
valid
detail.
Point. Very valid point. And we have started doing it now, and we're working on that now. These are trends that have been picked up, and that we're doubling our effort and trying to crack down on. We're running situations where somebody has built a house and never had an inspection on it whatsoever. I can't issue an occupancy for that, and that becomes some major liability when it comes to that. So things of that nature, and we've noticed several of those. Unfortunately, the contractor, in order for us to do our job, we need to be notified that an inspection has to take place. So a contractor is responsible to call us up and say, hey, I need you to check my insulation or whatever it is they're looking for. And we haven't been getting that. So now it's kind of policing the situation, which will bring in that revenue. So,
because for the $724 for the present fiscal year, that's pretty negligible. That seems like basically the department wasn't doing that. That's what it implies to me. Right? I mean, $724 that's negligible. So going from that to almost 100,000, which means you're refocusing your effort onto these potential violations. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then, will we see an additional uptick at least by the end of this fiscal year then, also?
There should be.
Right. Do you have the most recent number of where we are now? We'll have 2 more.
I don't have that. I don't have that in front of me, but that is something I can get to you.
Could you get that? And then, so I presume we're going to see at least an uptick in the end of this fiscal year. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands, but it sounds like you're, as you stated, you're doubling your effort. You're doing a different approach to it, and you're applying it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Thank you, Director. Internal order, you had a couple of questions?
Hi. More of comments than questions. I think Councilman Ryan asked the revenue question, but earlier in a Finance Committee meeting, Larry said that the smaller departments won't have any attrition, yet some of these departments that are fully funded have increased in attrition, and some of them only have 3 and 4 employees. I think that's, again, I think that's a real problem.
Well, no, that's a question. Hang on. Mr. Mancini, can you alleviate us of our concern on that issue, sir?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. I can alleviate your concerns at any time.
Thank you.
I don't recall my comment. Maybe I can have that refreshed, but I believe what I said is normally smaller departments like divisions, if a 3-person division would ordinarily not have attrition. As a rule, we apply attrition throughout the entire budget. It's meant to be a percentage of salaries, and it's based on some allocated formula. Where it may change is in the small departments. So I'll be happy to review that with the internal auditor. In fact, I'm sure that she's already reviewed that by looking at the attrition from last year to this year. But anyone that has anyone in particular, I'm happy to review that and provide appropriate notice.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Councilman Taylor, do you have your hand up, sir?
I'm all set. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. I just want to, actually, Director and Mr. Mancini, in the zoning board of review.
Yep.
Did you say that there was going to be a pay increase? Is that what you said? Yeah, there's a pay increase.
I said that there was an increase in the salary line. I don't know why that is true. If it's
Like, why
it might have been a vacancy last year that wasn't filled throughout the year. It is paid monthly, and if there's a full staffing, that would reflect why it's higher than the prior year.
Because the zoning board, the members themselves have a fixed rate, and they don't get any type of pay raises or anything like that unless it's done by the sub review board. Is that correct, Mr. Mancini?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir. All right. So it is getting late in the evening. Committee members, do you have any more questions
No,
for the director?
No.
The director's still on the line? I think he jumped ship on us. The director had enough. He left. He has left the building, the director.
No, he's going to get that information we asked him for.
Gonna go get that information.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I think he did a very fine job as director.
Oh, Mr. Mancini duly noted, sir. Oh, the director's back.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
You change your shirt,
Mr. Chairman, like you, I have to defend my team. Thank you very much, sir.
And Mr. Mancini, if I may say, you and I have been doing this for a long time, and you do a great job.
Yeah, well, Mr. Chairman, I mean this with all the sincerity and respect in the world. It's a difficult job, what we all do, including what the council does. So we take the time. We try to do everything that's within the purview of your work. So thank you for that courtesy.
Thank you. And Mr. Director, you know the deliverables that the committee has asked of you, sir? He's muted. Are we muted, or is he muted himself? So,
Yes, Councilman. Yes, Chairman, I do know.
Are you aware of the deliverables, sir?
I am.
Right. So can you please provide them to the internal auditor tomorrow, sir?
Sure, I will have them all together by the end of the business day tomorrow.
Great. And did you change your shirt? Did you just go out and do an inspection and come back? Am I going colorblind?
No, same shirt.
Okay.
Change the background. Different room.
Different room.
Oh. Well, because he's inspecting that room. Good job. Director, thank you, by the way, and stay focused and be safe, and all your folks over there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mancini and all your staff, Ms. Brito and Ms. Severa, thank you, and Mr. Lindbergh, everybody involved. Be safe and be well. And cost committee members, any more questions? I think we're good at this time.
I think we're good.
Right?
Thank you.
All right, so then, So,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Before you
Yes,
do
sir.
it, so we need these answers to those legal questions by Thursday. Okay, and we've asked for them before, so we need them by Thursday when the committee re-adjourns, okay?
Okay, sure.
Please do, thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, and you just make sure it's deliverable. With that, no more business, further business before this honorable committee. Do I entertain a motion? Vice Chair
Second.
makes that motion, by Councilman Taylor. Discussion? And Councilwoman Anthony, discussion? Oh, let the record reflect that Councilwoman LaFortune is present. I apologize, I just saw, Councilman Miller. Did I get Councilman Carolyn?
Hello.
Thank you. All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you all, and be well.